Senator Alex Padilla's removal at Kristi Noem's news conference on Thursday, June 12, 2025. An incident occurred in Los Angeles during a press conference held by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, where Democratic U.S. Senator Alex Padilla was reportedly forcibly removed, pushed to the ground, and handcuffed. The event has sparked significant controversy, with Democrats labeling it a shameful abuse of power, and Republicans defending Noem's actions, accusing Padilla of inappropriate behavior. The incident, captured on video, has fueled national outrage and intensified debates surrounding immigration policy, political decorum, and the treatment of elected officials. Below, I will outline the details of the incident, the reactions from both sides, the broader political context, and a critical examination of the event's implications. Detailed account of the incident according to multiple sources, including a report from the Times of India and posts on X. Senator Alex Padilla, a Democrat from California, interrupted a press conference led by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem to raise questions about recent immigration raids. These raids, part of the Trump administration's broader immigration crackdown, have triggered protests across California and the nation. Padilla's interruption reportedly led to a confrontation, during which he was forcibly removed from the venue, pushed to the ground, and handcuffed. The incident was recorded on video, though specific details about the footage, such as its clarity, what it shows, or who recorded it, are not fully described in the available sources. The Times of India reported that Padilla's actions were motivated by his intent to challenge Noem on the immigration policies being discussed. The confrontation escalated quickly, resulting in security personnel or law enforcement intervening. The exact nature of the physical altercation, whether Padilla resisted, whether excessive force was used, or who initiated the physical contact, remains unclear due to the lack of detailed accounts in the sources. However, the image of a sitting U.S. Senator being handcuffed and removed has been described as terrifying and fascist by some commentators, amplifying its political significance. Political reactions. Democratic response. Democrats swiftly condemned the incident, framing it as an egregious overreach by the Trump administration and a direct attack on democratic norms. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called the treatment of Padilla despicable and demanded immediate answers to what the hell went on. Vice President Kamala Harris echoed this sentiment, describing the event as a shameful and stunning abuse of power. These statements reflect the Democratic Party's broader narrative that the incident represents an escalation of authoritarian tactics by the Trump administration, particularly in the context of its immigration policies. Other Democrats, as seen in posts on X, expressed alarm at the implications for the separation of powers. One user, @FlyndD, suggested that the incident indicates the administration's disregard for the three branches of government, urging senators to protect their power. Another user, @YvetPM, went further, claiming that high elected officials like senators have privileges that make such treatment a severe violation, even suggesting it warrants extreme consequences. While these posts reflect public sentiment rather than official statements, they highlight the intensity of Democratic outrage and the perception that the incident crosses a line in political conduct. Republican defense. In contrast, Republicans, including Noem herself, defended the actions taken during the press conference. Noem, in an interview with Fox LA, claimed she had a great conversation with Padilla but criticized his behavior as inappropriate. This suggests that Republicans view Padilla's interruption as disruptive and disrespectful, justifying the response from security or law enforcement. The Times of India noted that Republicans broadly accused Padilla of engaging in behavior that warranted his removal, though specific details about what constituted this behavior, beyond interrupting the press conference, are not provided. The Republican stance aligns with their broader support for the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, which has been a polarizing issue. By framing Padilla's actions as inappropriate, they shift the focus from the use of force to the senator's conduct, attempting to deflect criticism of Noem and the administration. Contextual background. Immigration policy and tensions. The incident occurred against the backdrop of heightened tensions over immigration policy, particularly the Trump administration's aggressive approach to immigration enforcement. Since the start of Trump's second term, immigration raids have intensified, targeting undocumented immigrants and sparking widespread protests, particularly in states like California with large immigrant populations. Senator Padilla, as a California representative and a vocal advocate for immigrant rights, has been a prominent critic of these policies. His decision to confront Noem at the press conference likely stemmed from his role as a defender of immigrant communities and his frustration with the administration's actions. Padilla's background as the son of Mexican immigrants and his history of advocating for comprehensive immigration reform provide further context for his actions. As a senator, he has consistently pushed for policies that protect undocumented immigrants, including pathways to citizenship and protections for Dreamers under the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals (DACA) program. His interruption of Noem's press conference can be seen as a continuation of this advocacy, though it also reflects the growing polarization between Democrats and Republicans on immigration. Kristi Noem's role and public persona. Kristi Noem, as Homeland Security Secretary, has been a polarizing figure in the Trump administration. A former governor of South Dakota, Noem has built a reputation as a staunch conservative and a loyal ally of former President Donald Trump. Her appointment to lead the Department of Homeland Security signaled a hardline approach to immigration and border security, consistent with Trump's campaign promises. Noem's press conference in Los Angeles was likely intended to outline or defend these policies, making it a natural target for critics like Padilla. Noem's claim of a great conversation with Padilla, followed by her criticism of his behavior, suggests an attempt to downplay the incident while maintaining her authority. However, the optics of a U.S. senator being forcibly removed from her event have complicated her position, drawing scrutiny to her leadership and the administration's tactics. Critical examination. The incident raises several critical questions about political decorum, the use of force, and the state of democratic norms in the United States. Below, I will examine these issues in detail, critically assessing the narrative presented by the sources and considering alternative perspectives, legality and propriety of the removal. One of the central questions is whether the forcible removal and handcuffing of a sitting U.S. senator was legally justified and proportionate. Senators, as elected officials, do not have absolute immunity from arrest or detention, but they are afforded certain privileges under the U.S. Constitution. Article 1, Section 6, Clause 1, known as the Speech or Debate Clause, protects senators from arrest while attending or traveling to and from Congress, except in cases of treason, felony, and breach of the peace. The exact circumstances of Padilla's removal, whether he was formally arrested, detained, or simply restrained, are unclear, but the use of handcuffs suggests a significant escalation. That if Padilla's actions were limited to interrupting the press conference with questions, as the sources suggest, the use of physical force and handcuffs appears disproportionate. Public officials, particularly elected ones, often engage in heated exchanges or interruptions during political events, and such actions are typically handled through verbal de-escalation or removal without physical restraint. The decision to push Padilla to the ground and handcuff him raises questions about the training and directives given to the security personnel involved, as well as the political motivations behind their actions. However, without more details about the confrontation, such as whether Padilla physically resisted or posed a threat, it is difficult to fully assess the legality of the response. The absence of this information in the sources highlights a gap in the narrative that warrants further investigation. It is possible that additional footage or eyewitness accounts could clarify whether the security response was justified or excessive. Political motivations and optics. The incident's political implications are significant, particularly in the context of the Trump administration's broader agenda. By forcibly removing a prominent Democratic senator, the administration risks reinforcing perceptions of authoritarianism, a charge Democrats have levied since Trump's first term. The optics of a senator being handcuffed during a press conference are particularly damaging, as they evoke images of suppression and undermine the administration's claim to uphold democratic values. On the other hand, Republicans may see the incident as a necessary stand against what they perceive as grandstanding by Democrats. Padilla's decision to interrupt the press conference could be viewed as a calculated move to draw attention to his cause, knowing it would provoke a reaction. In this sense, both sides may be engaging in political theater, with Padilla leveraging the incident to highlight immigration issues and Noem using it to portray Democrats as disruptive. The polarized reactions, Democrats calling it an abuse of power and Republicans defending Noem, reflect the broader divide in American politics. The incident is likely to be weaponized by both sides in the ongoing culture war, with Democrats framing it as evidence of authoritarianism and Republicans arguing it shows the need for order and respect for authority. Role of the media and public perception. The media's role in shaping public perception of the incident cannot be overstated. The Times of India and Los Angeles Times provided factual reporting, but their summaries are brief and lack granular details about the confrontation. Posts on X, while not authoritative, reveal the intensity of public sentiment, with some users labeling the incident as fascism and others warning of escalating political violence. The viral nature of the video, as mentioned in multiple sources, underscores the power of visual media in shaping narratives. Without access to the full video, it is challenging to assess its contents objectively, but its circulation has clearly amplified the incident's impact. The media's framing, whether focusing on Padilla's treatment or his behavior, will likely influence how the public interprets the event. Broader implications. Erosion of democratic norms. The incident raises concerns about the erosion of democratic norms, particularly the treatment of elected officials. The physical removal of a senator from a public event, especially one involving handcuffs, is unprecedented in recent U.S. history and suggests a willingness to use force to silence dissent. This could set a dangerous precedent, normalizing the use of physical measures against political opponents and undermining the principles of free speech and open debate. The Democratic response, particularly Schumer's and Harris's statements, reflects a fear that such incidents could become more common under an administration perceived as hostile to opposition. The invocation of terms like abuse of power and fascism indicates a broader anxiety about the state of American democracy, especially in the context of other controversial actions by the Trump administration. Immigration policy and public discourse. The incident also highlights the deep divisions over immigration policy. Padilla's actions were motivated by his opposition to the administration's raids, which have been a flashpoint for protests and activism. The confrontation underscores the emotional and political weight of immigration as an issue, particularly in states like California, where immigrant communities are integral to the social and economic fabric. The public's reaction, as seen on X, suggests that the incident has further polarized discourse around immigration. For supporters of the administration, Padilla's removal may be seen as a justified response to disruption, while for critics, it symbolizes the administration's aggressive stance toward both immigrants and their advocates. Security protocols and accountability. The role of security personnel in the incident raises questions about protocols for handling disruptions at public events. Were the individuals who removed Padilla federal agents, local law enforcement, or private security? What were their orders, and who authorized the use of force? The lack of clarity in the sources makes it difficult to answer these questions, but they are critical for understanding the chain of command and ensuring accountability. If federal agents were involved, the incident could have implications for the Department of Homeland Security's operations under Noem's leadership. If local law enforcement or private security was responsible, it raises questions about coordination between federal and local entities and the extent to which political directives influenced their actions. Conclusion. The forcible removal and handcuffing of Senator Alex Padilla at Kristi Noem's press conference is a significant and troubling event that highlights the deep political divisions in the United States. While the available information provides a basic outline of the incident, key details, such as the exact sequence of events, the nature of the confrontation, and the legal basis for the use of force, remain unclear.